I don't think most of you have a trading problem. I think you have a discipline problem. And deeper than that, I really think you have an identity problem. And what I mean by this is the strategy is easy to learn. The charts are easy to study. Risk management is simple math, but the self-control is what is very, very rare. You know, when I initially moved to Canada, I was 17 at the time. I wasn't even of the age to open a bank account. I thought I was stepping into freedom, you know, new country, new people, no parents, no structure, just independence. And I was so excited for it. And for the first year, I did what every single person was doing. I was partying, I was going out, you know, I was trying to build connections, I was trying to feel like I belonged somewhere. But, you know, the truth is I never really connected with anyone. Like, and I'm talking, like, not deeply. I could talk to anyone. I could laugh, I could make the whole room laugh, I could hold conversations, but it felt really surface level. Like, even though I was going through that time, I was always thinking, like, am I crazy? Like, what is going on? And I remember walking back alone after, you know, nights out, you know, cold air just hitting my face, and I was just like feeling this emptiness. Like, I was just participating, but I didn't feel like I was progressing. You know, it took me a year to realize something very, very uncomfortable. I was different because I was better. I was different because I wanted more. I wanted a lot more from life. I used to go to classes in the beginning, and everybody was like, "Oh, are you working on your CV? Are you doing that? You know, what's your resume? Where do you plan to go? What's the next step?" And once that realization actually hit me, everything started shifting. I started saying no to everything. I stopped going out as much. I stopped chasing environments that didn't align. I stopped chasing attention, and that part was really hard. It was like, you know, like, you start going out with people, and then they're like, "Okay, yeah, we'll meet at the same place at the same time," but then you're like, actually no, like, I'm not actually gonna go. And I started, like, approaching, like, becoming 19, 20. And when you're 19 and 20, validation feels really powerful, you know, like lust feels powerful. Like, you want to go and speak to girls. Impulse feels powerful, but impulse also keeps you average. You know, I started noticing a very, very decent pattern, and if I couldn't control myself in life, I couldn't really control myself in trading, for example. If I chased short-term pleasure, I chased short-term profits. You know, if I avoided discomfort socially, I avoided holding trades. You know, your life starts leaking into your trading, and it becomes you start being so much alone, even though you're around people. You just look at it in a way where it's like, damn, like, I really feel like I'm alone in this right now. Even though there's people around me, I just still feel like I'm alone. There's no separation, and I just had to confront that. I had to look at myself and say, if you want more, your habits have to change. And I believed it. And in my mind, it was like, okay, I gotta change something in order to change my life. I can't be doing the same thing. It's just, I don't want that. So I started building that structure. You know, I started waking up earlier, and the first couple of days you feel like, yeah, but what's that actually gonna do? I started, you know, going to the gym, training consistently. I started taking the markets more seriously. I mean, I started e-commerce for a while, and then I was like, I don't want the hassle of, like, the fulfillment and the inventory and all that kind of stuff. And trading is like the most, like, no boss, I could just do my money with my laptop type of thing. And I started building And the Juice quietly while still going to university. You know, like, I used to have, like, assignments during the day. I used to have, like, projects, and it was like brand building at night. And yeah, I didn't sleep. There was, like, Zoom sessions that needed my attention. I had to focus really on delivering. I needed to learn marketing, so I had industrial engineering as a major, and then I did marketing while applying marketing. So I was going to class being like, okay, and then I was studying kind of the finance world while trading live markets. And here's what nobody tells you about growth. You know, like, it really isolates you, because the moment your focus shifts, your environment completely changes. I couldn't relate to weekend conversations anymore. Like, I still sometimes go out on a Saturday and be like, what in the world are these people talking about? Like, I don't really want to be a part of this. And I couldn't really relate to chasing these temporary highs. Like, yeah, we can go out, we can go party, we can speak to girls, and I can tell her to come over and we just have a blast, you know? And then Monday to Friday, I'll just waste time and then do this next weekend. And then I started looking at it, like zooming out and then looking at this, and I'm like, I don't really want that. Like, I don't care about that. And that gap between you and your surroundings feels very, very lonely at first, but that loneliness is the expansion. When I talk about rewiring psychology, I don't mean like listening to motivational speeches. I mean exposing yourself to controlled discomfort repeatedly until your nervous system adapts. The reason you move to break even in a trade isn't just technical, it's emotional. The reason you overtrade isn't because you don't know better, it's because you're avoiding feeling idle, you know? The reason you revenge trade, for example, isn't because you're stupid. I mean, you know that you're revenge trading while revenge trading, and you still do it, but it's just because your ego can't tolerate being wrong. You know, you never want to take a loss, and you've never been actually profitable, but you just know you don't want to ever take a loss. And psychology, you know, psychology is not theory. It's like, I want to think about it in a way where it's like, it's capacity, you know? And capacity is really built under like pressure, like real pressure, like knowing you're never going to make it if you don't adapt to that thing. So moving to Dubai was another expansion point. I was like, all right, what's the next thing right now? And I just realized that every time I hit a goal, I forget about hitting that goal, and I just realized that it was all about, you know, the process that got me to that goal. Because once you hit it, you automatically put another goal, and then it's like new country again. It's like bigger ambition, it's bigger risk. Most people really stabilize once they reach comfort. I've never really been wired that way. Nothing feels enough, but at the same time, everything feels enough. Like, there are days where I wake up and I'm like, I don't really want to do much today, and so I'm just not gonna do much. But these are very, very rare days, and even then I do like 20% of the work, and these 20% eventually add up, you know? Comfort scares me even more than failure, because comfort shrinks you very slowly. Failure is what stretches you fast. Every phase of my life has required letting go of a version of myself, you know, like the distracted version, the impulsive version, the validation seeking version. Like, I wanted to see if people realize that I did it, you know, like that I don't need anyone to make money or pay something anymore. I was just kind of in that new era of like, yeah, I can pay for anything. But that's like the small thinking version. And that's what the rewiring actually is. So then I had to rewire again, because everything's changing really quickly. And so this becomes identity replacement. You don't become disciplined by accident. You know, you don't wake up one day and be like, all right, I'm going to be disciplined for life. Like, I'm just disciplined right now. It doesn't happen. You become disciplined by choosing structure over impulse daily. You do that every single time. Every single time you're about to take a temporary decision, you think back and you realize, you know, I don't want to rush a temporary decision for a permanent one. And that happens because you get a temporary feeling. You don't become confident by winning. You become confident by executing correctly regardless of the outcome. The market, for example, does not reward intelligence. I have so many smart people around me and they can't really trade for shit. It rewards emotional stability. And emotional stability is built by controlling yourself when nobody's watching. I can't know if you're not following your discipline. Like, there's no way I can do it. You're the only person that knows that. You know, not going out when you need sleep is actually really good. You know, like discipline over emotions. Not scrolling when you know you need to focus. Not chasing the attention when you know you need growth, for example. not moving your stop loss because you're just uncomfortable. Rewiring as a whole isn't really glamorous. You know, it's like really quiet. It's repetitive. It's boring. But it works. Like, I'm telling you, it works. And I'm still scratching the surface. And if you're serious about changing your results, stop obsessing over entries, for example. You know, like, there's so much more to it. Start obsessing about who you are becoming. Because once your identity, who you are as a person, upgrades, your behavior just follows that. And once your behavior stabilizes, your results just compound. That's how you rewire yourself. You know? If you're a person that can't really sit through one thing and be like, okay, I'm giving this everything for the next 6 months, actually, like for the next 6 months, truly, you're not going to be able to change it. So you have to say, okay, I'm going to give it a go. 6 months, I'll give it everything. That's how you rewire yourself. Not through the hype, through discipline. That's it.